Hello and welcome. My name is Hannah Manjett, and today I'm here with Josh Alexander, the tech and SEO guru. He's my web strategy guy and is here to answer all of our questions, SEO, traffic, and lead generation related. So, Josh, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate it, sharing your expertise and knowledge with us.
No problem.
And I'll hand it over to you to kind of give our audience a little background on yourself and what it is exactly that you do.
Sure. Well, my name is Josh. I own my own web development company. Mainly, we primarily deal in WordPress development, and I'm actually on the organizing committee for WordPress for Chicago, for the WordCamp Chicago. I've spoken at the WordPress events for Chicago and Milwaukee over the last few years. I'm on the community team for WordPress.org, and I pretty much got in the business by complete accident, and ended up doing that. Been full time since '08. So that's kind of the quick background on me.
All right.
Yeah.
So we will just dive right into some of these questions.
Sure.
All right. So when you're working with clients or non-clients as well, when you're just chatting to people who are not nearly as experienced as yourself, what are the top 3 tools you see people underutilizing in their website, in their web strategy, just in their online presence in general?
Typically, I wouldn't say necessarily 3 tools, but there's 3 things I see a lot of. One of them is the syndication. So they're actually doing something on their website, blogging, whatever, and then they're posting it manually to Facebook. They'll post it manually to Twitter, and it's eating up a lot of their time, and that's why they're usually trying not to do more online, because they think it's going to take up more time. Where if they linked it all together, they can have it push out automatically, and they wouldn't have to sit there and go to each one individually and manually push everything out. So syndication is definitely a big one. I see a lot of that people could do a lot easier. And there's tools out there like OnlyWire that are really affordable, like $5 a month. They can do that really quickly and save them a lot of time. That's one out there. Let's see, the second one, big thing out there I see a lot of is people will actually have a website, but they won't actually be selling anything on it. Amazingly as it sounds, there's a lot of site companies I deal with that it's like half the companies actually sell something online, and then the half of them are like, we have a site up, and that's all we have. We don't want to sell anything on there, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I never could understand the logic behind that.
Okay.
And third is definitely utilizing social media better, because a lot of them just fail to do that. Social media is definitely some place they need to be spending some of their time.
Okay. I think you're right. When people think about building an online presence and generating traffic and leads online, it's just overwhelming. They think it's going to take a ton of time, and that's what they're going to be doing all day, every day. So could you maybe talk a little bit more about syndication and how you can integrate all of those platforms together a little bit more to make your life easier?
Sure. There's a lot of tools out there, like WordPress, for example, that actually do integrate really well with other social media platforms. So you can take WordPress and connect it to Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, and other places, actually. So when you're loading your content into your website, it automatically blasts it out automatically. So you only have to just use your website as a marketing hub, and then let the hub do its job and get the content out for you. So that's the basic of syndication, is where you push the content out to other sources. It's not really a backlinking strategy. It's more like you're pushing out the content to the sources, and then they're providing links back into your site. So there is a backlinking concept there, but it's not like backlinking from the old SEO days where you used to just put junk backlinks out there for the sake of it. You're actually trying to get people to read the content and click to come back to your website. And that's the whole purpose of getting the syndication out there.
Okay. And then that kind of brings us into another topic, is content creation, content strategy, and actually having interesting and valuable content to your audience. And that's kind of where blogging comes in. How often do you think people should be blogging?
Well, the statistics are actually out there, so I don't have to guess on this one. If you're blogging once a week, you're going to get about 50% more traffic than most websites are.
Oh, really? That's very often.
Well, here's an interesting thing. If you blog 20 times a month or more, you get about 400% more traffic than any other website. So if you're doing once a week, it's about 50%. You're doing it 5 days a week, you're going to get about 400% increase on the traffic flow. So it's up to you. Which one do you want?
Wow, that's amazing. I did not realize those Astonishing statistics. So blogging really does work.
It does.
But only, do you think it only works if you have that syndication strategy in place where you're...
It helps with having syndication strategies in place, but it's building that readership base that comes back on a regular basis. If you're only posting once a week, I'm only coming to your website once a week. If you're posting every day, I may be coming to your website every day. It makes more sense to have more content to get me to come back more often.
Right. Okay. So one of the new tools that are out there, well, they're not new, but I think they're new for entrepreneurs and utilizing them in their business, is Skype and Google Hangouts. Do you have any advice as to how to utilize those tools for lead generation?
I have most of my business is off those two tools. So the big things for me for Skype for me, the biggest one is there's a thing called Skype groups. So you can actually create groups on Skype where you can actually mingle with other people, and there's a lot of them in the tech industry. So we'll have people in those groups that'll say, I'm having this trouble on this website, or I just got hacked, or whatever, and then they'll call us up because they realize, hey, somebody will bring up my name and they'll say, hey, Josh knows how to unhack websites, and we'll end up going in and unhacking their website, and then we end up getting a client base out of it. And same thing, they'll have something that's just beyond their skill level, and they'll say, hey, I'm trying to find somebody that can do X, Y, Z, and usually we're the one that fills that gap.
Okay. So
and Google Hangouts is kind of the same process, except it's more in person.
Okay. So it's really just still building that presence.
Still building the presence. We kind of just got known as a more of the answer person for everything. So I'll have people, especially for Google Hangouts, for example, where I'll actually get a contact privately on Skype or somewhere else, and they'll say, hey, I'm on this Hangout. Somebody's asking this question about WordPress. Do you want to jump in? And they'll invite me into the Hangout. So you still got to get your reputation out there, but people will remember you, and they'll actually invite you to those Hangouts once that question pops back up.
Oh, interesting. Okay, very cool. And from a website perspective, what do you think are the most important things people can be doing to generate traffic and leads? I mean, obviously having their products and services on there, like you said.
That's one. I usually tell people there's three things that I see that's a big problem out there in the internet business. There's three things you have to have in order to make money online. One is you have to have a website. As surprising as it may seem, I run into about 10% of small businesses that don't have one yet. So 1 out of 10 businesses still don't have a website, even in today's age, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing.
50% of them don't put a product or service on their website. And almost every time I ask this question, I have about 1% that say they actually do something, and 99% tell me they don't do this last one. I ask them, what do they do daily to market their website? And most of them say nothing. And that seems to be the one thing that I see a big problem on. If you're not daily involved, then you're going to lose traction real quick on the web.
Yeah. What can we do to market our website on a daily basis?
There's a variety of ways you can do that. I mean, you can do it through blogging, you can do it through articles, press releases, podcasting, you can do it through videos. So there's a variety of ways out there, and you can hit a variety of different strategies. I recommend that all the time because YouTube may be real big right now, but it may not be big later. Mm-hmm. Podcasting is growing really popular. There's a lot less competition on podcasting, actually, than there is on video. So it's easier to get to the top in the podcasting scale than it is on the video. But it's underutilized, I think, a lot. A lot of people don't really look at the podcasting thing. You look at YouTube for business people and tech people, it's probably, a few million hits out there, but for podcasts there may be a couple thousand. So your competition drops drastically.
Right.
Same thing for other sources like press releases and things of that nature. Building up, there's also things called citizen journalism. I don't know if you've heard of that purpose or not.
No.
Citizen journalism is like, for example, if you go to CNN.com, they actually have a place you can publish your own articles there.
Oh.
You can go to a thing called ireport.cnn.com, and you can publish out a report there of general interest to the population, and you can sit there and say, hey, don't forget to check out our link on CNN.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So it helps build that brand recognition of, hey, we've been on CNN.com.
Right.
And it's free for everybody. That's the amazing thing about it. People don't think about those kind of things.
No, I don't think a lot of people know about them. I
No,
mean,
and there's because of what's happened in the journalism field is they basically started firing all the journalists because everybody has a cell phone, everybody has social media, and they're starting to use that more often to get the news media in. So now they've got citizen journalism where people can report their own news stories to them directly,
hmm.
and that's you and everybody else.
So you could write an article that is related to your product or service and publish it.
Not necessarily pushing your product or service because it's still not a value to them. What you could do though is you could be sitting there talking about, for example, if you're in the tech field like we are, we could be posting something along the lines of, the changing technology of all the hacking and stuff going on currently. We
Mm-hmm.
get 20% of our business is unhacking sites, so we could be going over the importance of, making sure the site's secure and what things like this and over that. And of course, because we have a link back on the article name to our site, they could of course come back and find out, oh well, this guy makes sense. Let me find out what he can offer us. But
Okay.
it's of national value to their news agency, obviously, because it could be pulled in.
Okay. So again, just adding value
Mhm.
and of interesting topics.
Yeah, and the best thing to do is you can go out there and you can find sources like this through news that's already out there. Like recently, Sony got hacked with their they got hacked by North Korea recently. So with that, you can put out an article of what the businesses need to be doing in order to protect themselves from those kind of things.
Okay.
It was a national big hit. So other sources out there is are you familiar with a company called Haro?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So help a reporter out. They'll find topics where reporters are actually looking for your stuff in general.
Hmm.
Then you can also the other twist on that most people don't think about. That was we were actually a friend of mine actually was getting all millionaires to interview, and
Mm-hmm.
what he did is he just posted out, I'm looking for a bunch of millionaires to interview, and he had a whole bunch of them contact them through Haro, and he wrote a book based on what they told him. That's it. And he
Wow.
was also able to network with those millionaires because he was interviewing them for the book.
Well, that's interesting. So that's something. I mean, could we go and say, hey, we're looking to write an article, and this is
Hmm.
this topic, and I'm looking for people to interview.
Yeah,
Very interesting, and it just builds your network then as
it
well.
builds your network up as well. It builds out the niche people that are in your industry. I mean, it's not hard to do, really.
Awesome. Well, this is great advice. I'm really excited. I'm going to start implementing some of this into my business. All right, um, let's talk about SEO for a little bit. I think when
Okay.
people hear SEO, it's like when people like lay people, I guess, if you will, who aren't in the industry, hear SEO, it's kind of like I don't know. There's all these.
It's not quite that bad. No, I hear that a lot. It's like, oh no, this is a nightmare.
Right.
The old days of SEO really were a nightmare. The big thing now is actually making sure you don't get in trouble from the old days. You still got a lot of outdated practices out there,
Okay.
like backlinking strategies and creating all these crazy links, and that usually is what gets people in trouble the most. The number one thing I see the biggest problem on is backlinking strategies.
You
We
want
end
to
up
stay
having to
away
go
from those.
through. I'm sorry.
You want to stay away from those.
Yeah, big time. And a lot of them will come back saying we can get you X amount of backlinks per month and all this. Just anytime you hear that, just stay away. And mainly it's because you're going to hit. They have these. Basically, Google's gotten smarter over the years. They say, hey, this is a bad link. This is a bad link. And these systems are just made to go grab anything they can and put it out there. And then you have to do what's called disavowing the links if you do get those links in order to get it off your record. And it takes forever to do that.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
it can get very expensive to repair the damage of those kind of SEO tactics.
So give us like a handful, 3 to 5 maybe, of good SEO tactics that people can implement.
Stuff that people could implement on their own when they're doing pages themselves and they're adding it to their sites. They could put in a good title tag, making sure that it's keyword rich. They could put in good descriptions of things, whether it's title tagging it for their niche. If they're only in a local business, for example, they could say, plumbers in Chicago, for example.
Hmm.
And then they're going to target that article towards plumbers in Chicago. Now, if they want to target a different city, they maybe write another article that's related to some project they did in Naperville, and then they can say, plumbers in Naperville,
Okay.
and things of that nature.
Okay. what or if we're working with a professional to do it, what are some good goals, some kind of realistic goals to expect from SEO? I mean, I think sometimes people think I'm going to build a website and then they will come, or
Not quite. From
you
the
know,
professional side of the fence, there's some different things we do on the technical end, like robot text files and htaccess files, where we do 301 redirects and things like that. From the non-technical person, title tags and alt tags on images is another good tactic to do as well. Anytime you have an image, you want to be putting some kind of description on that image. Not only does it help rank the image, because Google doesn't know what an image is. All they're
okay,
going to know is if you title that image, number 10356.jpg, that's what they see. They don't see that it's a picture of a tree or a
okay,
picture of your business or logo or whatever. So you want to put an alt tag there to say, hey, this is a picture of, a tree here or whatever the case may be, plumbing services, whatever the case may be, so Google knows what that image is about. It also serves a dual purpose. If they're handicapped and your website's handicap accessible, you
mm-hmm.
can actually have, when the handicaps are, their software they use for their computers, it reads the alt text. It doesn't read the actual image file, so that they can actually understand what the picture is supposed to be about.
Okay. And how do you, when we're implementing all of this, like all these online presence and SEO strategies, when we're blogging and we're on social media and we have all these different things going on, how do you measure which one is giving you the most traffic? How do you measure success with all of them so then you can start putting more of your time and resources into that channel or that?
Definitely analytics.
Okay.
So for analytics, you've got several different analytics solutions out there. One of them is Google Analytics, which is the most popular out there. You go into Google, you can go to Google Analytics. It's free to set up, and it's the easiest one to set up, really, that's out there that I'm aware of. The second one that's out there that's majorly used by, I guess, more people like me that are geeks, is there's a big one called Piwik. It's an open source analytics system that's also free, but you have to set it up on your own server. It's just like setting up WordPress or something like that. You set it up on your own server, and it tracks a lot higher level of analytics. So we could track like how many people are coming at what time of the day. So we know what time of the day they're even coming at the site.
Oh. And that it'll give us information as like where they're coming from. So if they're coming from Facebook or they're coming from an article.
It'll give us not only that, but certain ones will give us more details. Like with Google, it'll let me know, okay, this is a mobile desktop. With Piwik, it'll let me know this person came off a Samsung versus a Nokia.
Wow.
So I can get really detailed analytics off that.
Okay.
So depending on which analytics program you use, you can get better detail sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also things called like heat maps where you can actually see where people are clicking on the website. There's software you can install in the website that actually will video record the actual interaction of the person. So people don't even think about those kind of things sometimes. I mean, if you're really looking for like a usability study, you can sit there and actually record the entire session of the user and actually play back the video to see how they actually interacted with your website as a whole.
Wow. That's pretty cool. And is there such a thing as too much SEO?
Yes. Backlinking is one of those problems. The other one we see a lot of is what's called keyword stuffing. So they'll slam a bunch of keywords in there. They'll have a keyword box, and they'll just start slamming a bunch of keywords in there, where they'll throw a bunch of stuff. You see it all the time on the bottom of the website. We serve these 50 cities. And the problem with that is they're trying to think that, well, if Google sees these, they'll like this. No, Google hates that stuff. They de-index them, actually. The old rules used to be 10 words per page for keywords. That was the max you could do. Since then, it's changed now to 4.
Oh, wow.
It's actually, I keep telling people eventually eventually will get down to 1, so you might as well just stay right there and call it a day. So if you're at 1 keyword per page, you're doing safe.
Okay.
And it may sound like that's not enough, but it encourages you to also provide more content and more blogging, because every blog post you do is another page and another chance to rank. Search engines don't rank websites. They rank web pages. So every single page you add is another chance to rank in that search engine.
Okay. How can we know what keywords would be good for us to use?
There's a couple different ways to do that. One, you can actually do a long, drawn-out process of learning keyword research and trying to figure it out from Google, or you can do what I typically do, which is a lot easier.
Mhm.
I actually have the business owners ask their clients, if you were looking for me today, what would you look for?
Hmm.
And surprisingly, we find some keywords that we would never get from keyword research tools. Like we found out from a gym in Chicago that no one there would actually search for a gym in Chicago. We found out that because the city's so large, people there search for a gym in 60601 or
Um,
60602. Because it's so big of a city, they want to search it down to the zip code level. So we never thought about that until we started asking that question. Once we asked it, we knew, okay, now we need to rank for the zip code, not the city.
well, that's interesting. So
And,
just kind of
and
surveying.
because of that little twist, we were able to get them number one in the city for that zip code.
Wow.
Because no one
Wow.
else was doing that kind of research. They were looking at, okay, let me go in this keyword research tool. No one thought about looking at the zip codes.
Okay. So it's really just kind of surveying your customers, surveying your list, Facebook, what have you.
Exactly. You'll get better keywords off of that because it's the actual people that came to find you. If
Right.
they were to come to find you tomorrow, what would they type to get you? And you'll find out that they will have a totally different view on how to find you than what you think.
Hmm. Okay. Very interesting. Can we go back to talk about sort of I report on CNN and sort of writing those articles again? I think that is really interesting. Can you maybe give us some more tips and tricks on that? I think a lot of people don't know about that.
No, it's like I said, citizen journalism is kind of a little bit different out there. It's not known by a lot of people, but there is a lot of sites out there like that. Fox has their own version. CNN has their own version. All the major news companies have it. You can even report your own stuff to ap.org. A lot of people don't realize that. But if you do AP, be very careful. You want to have a lot of stuff set up already in advance or automated. Because if it gets picked up by AP, it goes out to 1 billion people overnight.
Oh,
So if you get anything out there picked up by them, you're going to go global immediately. So you got to be a little bit careful where you put the traffic at as well, because it could be very overwhelming if you get the wrong one.
kind of be careful what you wish for, kind of thing.
Yeah, it can be. If you don't have this infrastructure in place, I tend to stay away from ap.org on that one. If you have the heavy resources for that, that's great. But if you're not, then you could be overwhelmed and it could literally shut your servers up overnight.
Okay, so if we were to just Google citizen journalism.
You'll find a bunch of sources out there. Also look for places you can report news. Where citizens can report news.
Mhm.
There's sites out there. In fact, let me see if I pull it up real quick here. There's a bunch of sites called where you can actually look for similar sites to a site. And the website's actually called similarsites.com.
Oh,
And
that's
you can actually look for similar sites to another website. So
okay.
that's another site you can look at for all kinds of different purposes.
Right. Okay. Very cool. So when you start working with someone with their website and sort of their web strategy, what is your advice on how to approach it? I think again going back to the overwhelm thing, what's the best method?
It's kind of a catch-22. You kind of got to what we really want to have happen and what the client wants to have happen usually is different. It's like we would love to know what their budget is so we can help them the best we can. Most of the clients are like, well, I don't want to give them my budget because they really want to spend every dime of it. Well, it'd be true, but at the same time, we can also tell you what we can do in that budget range. It's a little bit easier. Whereas if you're trying to hide that budget from the developer, we don't know, okay, can we do this? We don't know. And we're just trying to give you the lowest cost we can in order to get the project in, as opposed to giving you the best strategy you can get. The big problem on that is like when you're trying to go after websites, big thing we're trying to look for is conversion rates. Is it modern enough that it's going to be mobile responsive and things like that? Those are the things we definitely want to have happen in the website, no matter what. Web security is another one, obviously, but we want to try to get the clients to do something that my biggest thing that I'm always looking at is what will the client actually do if I let them have it once I'm done. Are they going to be able to do it themselves? Do they need somebody to help them? market this on a daily basis? Are they actually going to blog on a regular basis, or do they need to hire a writer to do it for them?
No.
Most of them, they say, oh yeah, I'm going to blog, I'm going to blog, I'm going to blog, and the second their website's up, they do nothing.
Right.
And it's like, okay, great. So you paid for all this money for a website, and you never did anything with it.
Right.
And then they wonder 3 months later, well, this isn't doing me any good. I don't know why this doesn't work. It must be him. Instead of realizing they didn't market it in the first place, and that's the reason it failed.
So it really is, and I was victim to this, or, I had this issue a couple years ago when I first started in the online world. I thought, well, I'm just going to get a website, and then people are just going to come to me and, kind of build it and they will come. That's not true.
It doesn't work. It used to work back in the 90s and things like that, but things have changed. We have a little bit over 7 or 8 billion websites now.
Yeah.
And that means we have more websites than there are people in the planet.
Wow.
So from that perspective, there is a lot of competition now.
Right.
We weed through everything. And it's amazing to me how many people don't do that. If they would just be active on their website, they'd see an incredible traffic difference.
So it's really just using your website as a tool to market yourself.
It is not actually that hard to get in the top 500,000 or top 100,000 websites in the world by just marketing on a regular basis. It's very easy to get in that top market. The problem is most people don't do anything, so they usually don't end up in that. So
if we were to spend, X amount of time daily marketing our website, how much time should we spend? Is it an hour?
If a company spent about 30 minutes a day, doing their stuff for their stuff, they will still rank really well.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do really well with it. If a company has a budget to have somebody in-house that does it for them, it is worth every dime to do that, and that person will they should never have any problem with finding enough work for that person to do, because there's so much to do online. If somebody hired me, for example, to work for one company, I could literally come up with an 80-hour work week and never do the same thing. I mean, I could literally do an 80-hour work week and never have to ask for anything to do, because there's so much to do online for that one company. You could just spend your entire days doing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So really, as much time as you can allocate, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you have a big company, you need to have somebody probably full-time doing it. Okay. And that person may be doing everything from your web content strategy to social media to answering questions on Twitter. Okay. So, from a customer service perspective, because people complain, and when they complain, they go to Twitter, they go to Facebook now. They don't go somewhere else. I had a problem trying to get somebody on the phone to answer my questions, and they were hell trying to get up with. The customer service rep gave me crap, and I couldn't get anything done. I went to Twitter. I have 10,000 followers on Twitter. Yeah. So the second I hit Twitter and I hashtagged the company, I had a response in 5 minutes. So, when it was just me on the phone, no one wanted to answer me. But when it goes out to 10,000 people, it's like, oh, we got to solve this problem. This is not good. And that's the beauty of the social media realm. Immediately, I had a response back, and immediately they solved my issue.
So if you're really serious, if you can't afford to hire someone, but you're really serious about using your website as a tool to market yourself, you could really start out by doing an hour a day and see.
If you really don't have the time, the best advice I could give anybody is take a day a week and schedule everything for the entire week. There's tools like Hootsuite, which you can schedule all your social media posts for the entire week out. You can go onto WordPress, which will allow you to actually post in advance, and you can actually schedule the day the post will come out. So you don't have to go in and blog every day. You can say, okay, here's all my blog posts for this week. Post them all in one day. Tell it, okay, this one goes out on Monday, this one goes out on Tuesday, and so forth. And then once it publishes, it's going to syndicate out automatically. Your social media stuff you manage on Hootsuite and let that manage itself out automatically. And then you can literally put most of your stuff on autopilot for the week while you're sitting there doing what you do during the week.
Okay. All right, excellent. And so if we have a WordPress site, WordPress is really common, I think. I think a lot of people have WordPress sites.
The reason I mentioned WordPress is 23% of the Internet's already powered by it.
Yeah.
There's other systems that are just as good, Joomla, Drupal, and systems like those that also integrate and do the same similar things. WordPress is just the most common one that's out there.
Okay. Well, a lot of lot of entrepreneurs I know have WordPress sites. So if we do, when we're there typing a blog post, we should be able to set it up where once we post that post, once we send it out, and if we schedule it ahead of time, that's cool. Or if not, no worries. But it should be able to go out to all of our social media then too. That's capability of WordPress. That's pretty cool.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. If there's a system called there's actually a service called OnlyWire for $5 a month. You can actually connect it to 50 different social media accounts. So that's pretty cheap to get your content syndicated out to 50 different places every single time you post.
Right. Okay. All right. Do you have anything else you'd like to add? Any sort of, huge issues that you see with people that really bug you and you think like, oh, you could easily fix this or something like that?
The huge issues I see are, the biggest issues I see are like people just not being active. That's the biggest thing I wish they would do. There's even as a business coach, I'm sure you see this as well. Is the biggest number one problem is getting people to take action. They think that if I just put it up, that people will come, and I'll just sit back at home and do nothing. As opposed to actually being active and proactive. I mean, I have 30 clients around the world that we deal with, and we work for multiple agencies all over the planet. And one of the things we do is I'm still out there networking. Even though I don't need to network, I have plenty of business, sometimes too much business coming in at a time. I'm still out there networking. I'm still out there trying to find more business because I can. It makes sense to grow the company. If I don't, then I'm going to stay as small as I am. Like I keep growing if I keep going out there and getting more activity. But action seems to be the biggest problem I see, online and off.
I would agree. I think it's the biggest problem across the board, or not problem, but sort of obstacle, I guess, getting people to take consistent, massive action. And, I was like that too when I first started, marketing online and working for myself. I just, I think a lot of people, they don't really know what to do consistently on a daily basis. But, once I figured that out and once I started consistently taking action, you really start seeing momentum in your business.
Sure. And one of the things I tell people is if you're a business owner and you're out there trying to market, don't just think of the regular business events. I was at I just went to a board game event the other day. Some people may be familiar with the board game called Cashflow from Robert Kiyosaki. I go to those events and I pick up sometimes I pick up more business from those gaming events than I do from actual networking events. Because the only people playing that board game are entrepreneurs. So practically everybody at the table is business owners.
Right.
So it makes sense. It's just another place to network out. The other thing is that they can do, the big thing I also see businesses not taking advantage of is web automation. They think, okay, well, I have the website up, that's it. Or I'm doing social media and that's it. They don't think outside the box of things that you can do. Like there's a website called IFTTT, and if you want to write that down, it's IF 3 T's. So IFTTT. It stands for if this, then that. And it's a free website you can go to. You can create recipe programs. So let's say I'm changing my picture on Facebook and I want to change it on Twitter. Instead of going to Twitter and logging in and changing my picture and logging into Facebook and changing my picture and logging into this network and changing my picture, I can say if I change my picture here, change it here. If I change it here, change it here. If I change it here, change it there. So now when I change my picture in one place, it changes it in all the places. So now I'm automating the use of the web a little bit better. I could say that, for example, if I'm I got a friend of mine who's a writer. He has it set up to where when people come in and post anything about writing gigs on Craigslist, it sends them an email and automatically reply back. So that immediately the person's being given an email, hey, I'm a writer, I'm interested in your project. He doesn't do anything until they contact him back. So those are things you can do that people don't think about from automation standpoints.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Automation, I think, it makes your life easier.
Yeah.
But then it also, especially with email and things like that and connecting with people don't have to wait. We're really impatient nowadays. We want it now.
And we do want it now. The great thing about wanting it now is automation helps them get it now immediately without having to do much. Like they got these things called Philips Hue light bulbs. I don't know if you've heard of those. Mm-hmm. They're multicolor light bulbs that are Wi-Fi capable. I can sit there and say, okay, every time somebody pays me on PayPal, link it to my PayPal email so that every time somebody pays me, my light turns and flashes green. Or every time it's colder than 32 degrees outside, go to weather.com and check the weather. If it's lower than 32, make my light bulb blue so I know to put a coat on before I leave the house.
Huh.
And so you can do stuff like that nowadays that people don't even think about.
Right.
You know, instead of checking your email constantly throughout the day and searching, oh, did I get an email? Did I get an email? I could change it. I could install a light bulb that tells me when I got the email, so I don't have to even think about it.
Right. You know, an email, I think email and Facebook they're great tools, but you can really suck up your time.
They can. They can as well. And you could say, okay, if this person emails me, flash this light or change this. So the light bulbs could be that way of controlling that email urge to go check your email. Light bulb changes. And people don't think about things like that sometimes.
No, not at all. I didn't even know about it. Well, this has been really educational. We should have you on more often, John.
Not a problem.
So what if people want to work with you? As I said before, Josh is my web guy, and he has been awesome. Not only for website design, but web strategy and things I can do with my website and with my business to help grow it. So definitely has my 110% stamp of approval, if that means anything to anyone. So if people want to work with you, what would that look like, and how can they get in contact with you?
They can contact me by email at joshua@joshuaalexander.net. My website is at promotionalscience.com. Or they can just contact me via phone. It's 630-430-6238. And we'll get them going. We kind of customize everything to them, so it's not really here's how it's going to work for them versus here's how it's going to work for somebody else. We don't know until we find out from them what they need. One of the big things we see, though, is we try to get them what they need as opposed to maybe sometimes what they want. From a perspective of that, one of the biggest problems we see in like web development is the client will say, okay, I want this type of look, and I want this color, and I want that, and I want this, and I want this. And then you're coming back, and you're like, okay, who are we building this for? Are we building it for you to look at, and you to have it on your computer, and no one else is going to see it? Or are we building this for your client that's actually going to use this, and this is what they should have? Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to get them to break that habit of it's not for them, it's for their client. And once they realize that, I think it gets easier.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, before the website you did for me, the previous one, I kind of approached it as, what I like. And it doesn't really matter what you like as an entrepreneur. It's what your audience is going to like.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to add, or do you think we're good to go for today?
We're good to go for today.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us. And I will post all Josh's contact details in the broadcast area. I'll message out everyone who is on, and then also the webinar will be on my website, and I'll post his contact details below that. So you should be able to find Josh if you like his expertise. So with that, I will thank everyone for watching today, and we will be in touch soon. Thanks, Josh.
No problem.